December. It's nice and cold again, back in New York. Today we're actually gonna stick kind of close to the neighborhood. I had this idea as one of my kind of themes to just walk up and down the different avenues and show you what they're like. And today I thought I'd do Fifth Avenue, at least the upper part of Fifth Avenue. When you look at the kind of things that you'll see along the upper part of Fifth Avenue, it's actually kind of a mansions tour. So that's sort of what this is gonna be. So today we're really focusing on Fifth Avenue next to Central Park. That's an area that ended up being where all the millionaires moved up and built their mansions after a while. So we're gonna head downtown first and start at the bottom of the park and work our way back up, kind of following in the footsteps of all the millionaires that left Lower Manhattan and moved up to the east side. If you're just finding this channel, the whole point is that I pick different places around New York City and just go explore and take you with me. So check out all the rest of the episodes already on the channel. Be sure to subscribe. But now let's head down to the bottom of Central Park and start our journey up Fifth Avenue. Let's go. I'm out of the subway, 5th at Central Park South. You pop out and you're right here. It's nice. Enough of Central Park though, we've seen Central Park. On this side, we got the Plaza. We'll talk about that in a second. It's Christmas season and we are in it down here. So this is where all the tourists are gonna be. Rockefeller Center is just down that way. They're lighting the tree tomorrow. The Plaza is behind me. It is heavily fortified right now, and it's hard to get a shot because I'm too close. But across the street, they've got it all blocked off for repairs, so we'll go this way. Right behind me and across from the Plaza, which is back there, we got the Pulitzer Fountain, which is currently under renovation. So Bergdorf Goodman back here. Important, not necessarily for this building, but this is the site of the former Vanderbilt mansion. It was one of the William Morris Hunt mansions that was built in 1883, but then it was sold to make way for Bergdorf Goodman in 1926. So this was one of the biggest mansions in New York until it was torn down, which a lot of the big mansions that were here have been torn down at this point. But we'll see a few that are left today. Back over there, maybe you can see Louis Vuitton. They've got a pretty elaborate decoration this year. It looks like suitcases. It's all over the internet. I bet you can find better pictures of it. That's where it is. Tis the season for me to walk through people's pictures. All right, so across the street there, that's the Plaza Hotel. You may know it from Home Alone too. There was another Plaza Hotel in that same spot from 1890 until it was torn down and made way for this one. And this one was built between 1905 and 1907. I don't know much about architecture, but this is in the French chateau style, I believe. All the ornate stuff on the top there. It's nice. Just looking back towards Central Park, so we got Grand Army Plaza right over there, which is next to the Plaza. Back behind me, we got the Metropolitan Club. It was founded as a gentleman's club in 1891, although that's kind of gained a different connotation these days. It was just a rich man's club back then. This building was built in 1893. J.P. Morgan was one of the members, so he helped push this through. The building was designed by McKim, Mead & White, very famous architecture group here in New York. It's very nice. And then we cross the street. Here we are at Grand Army Plaza. William Tecumseh Sherman on his horse. Grand Army Plaza, not much to it. There are actually a lot of these fancy clubs around here. There's another one right across the street from it. I didn't catch the name of it. We're gonna see another one just down the street here. It's kind of a thing. So again, Plaza, Grand Army Plaza, Central Park, and there's Fifth Avenue. So we're gonna start walking up Fifth Avenue. My hands are cold. I have gloves, I guess I can put them on. The next point of interest, this is the Knickerbocker Club. It's another one of those gentlemen's clubs. Still a fancy, posh, well-to-do kind of thing nowadays. Speaking of which, it's actually considered to be one of the most exclusive clubs in the United States and one of the most aristocratic gentlemen's clubs in the world. So there's that. It was founded in 1871. That building was built between 1913 and 1915. It's nice. Coming up on this side, we got the Central Park Zoo. We've walked through there in one of the previous episodes. Check that one out if you haven't seen it. There's the zoo. The precursor to the zoo actually was a menagerie that opened up in Central Park in 1864. So that's a long time ago. This facility first opened in 1934, and then it was reconstructed in 1983. It's a nice little zoo to have in your backyard. I said this last time I was here, but I'm outside the zoo right now. You can actually see the sea lions from out here. It's pretty cool. Just in front of the zoo is a building called the Arsenal. We're gonna walk back around to the front of it now. So we're back up here on Fifth Avenue, and this is the Arsenal. This is built between 1847 and 1851. It is the second oldest structure in Central Park, second only to the Block House, which is up in the northern part of the park. We saw that in our Upper Central Park video. Go check that out if you haven't seen it. So originally it was a storehouse for arms and munitions for the New York State Militia. It talked about tearing it down in the 1920s, but then it was renovated in the 1930s. And now it houses the offices for the Historic Trust, the Central Park Zoo, the Parks and Rec Department, other things like that. Pretty cool building though. We got the Arsenal here. We're at 64th and 5th. There's another building that looks like a mansion across the street. There are a lot of those buildings that look like old mansions right around here. From a historical perspective, it's kind of awesome. Just up to the next street, 65th Street. This is another one of those examples of it's not necessarily what's here, it's what used to be here. This is Temple El Emanuel, which is pretty impressive in itself. But this is the site of the old Astor mansion. It's in John Jacob Astor, I don't remember which. That mansion was also designed by William Morse Hunt. Hunt was one of the best architects in New York at that point in time. And almost nothing that he designed is still around today. Everything's been torn down. We're gonna see a memorial to him up here, and then the last surviving building that he designed in New York. But anyway, that's Temple El Emanuel, which was built in 1930 after the Astor Mansion was torn down. So tucked right back in there between those other two apartment buildings that were built later is another mansion from the Gilded Age. It's the Emily Thorn Vanderbilt Sloane White Mansion. Originally built in 1905 for Livingston Beckman, it was later sold to Emily, who's Cornelius Vanderbilt's granddaughter, and she lived there until her death in 1946. In 1946, the Republic of Yugoslavia purchased it. Later, after the breakup of the Soviet Union, it was owned by the successor states of Yugoslavia. There are actually famously bulletproof windows on these windows that face the park. A Yugoslavian leader hid out there after an assassination attempt in 1963. So that's interesting. It was back on the market in 2017 for $50 million, I believe. And there was a fire in it in 2018. I don't think it's actually sold. And I think it's back on the market now. And it doesn't look very inhabited. I can't find anything after that though, so I'm not sure what's going on with it right now. But there it is. It's a World War I memorial to the 7th Regiment of New York. It's a lot more peaceful up here as we move away from the touristy parts down at the southern part of Central Park. This next one's not very interesting to look at in its current form because it's been under renovation for a couple of years. This is Henry Clay Frick's house though, which is now known as the Frick Collection. So to take you back before this house, remember Manhattan used to be all farmland, and this is actually where the Lenox farm was, which is where we get the name Lenox Hill, which is one of the neighborhoods up here. In 1877, the Lenox Library was built here, which was designed by William Morris Hunt. That was torn down about 1912, which is when construction on this began. What's hard to see from here is there's a huge garden in front of the house, which was kind of unheard of for mansions at the time in Manhattan, because there's not that much space. But Frick had seen Carnegie's mansion up the street, which we'll go look at later. And Carnegie had built himself a garden. And so Frick said, I gotta have a garden too. So the mansion was completed in 1914. Frick lived here until he died in 1919. His wife and daughter continued to live here after that until his wife died in 1931. And then in 1935, as Frick had wanted in his will, it was converted into a museum to display all the art that he collected through the years. That's when it became the Frick Collection. And right across the street from the Frick Collection is a memorial to William Morris Hunt, the architect we were talking about earlier. It's particularly interesting because there really aren't any other memorials to architects in New York especially. It's also interesting because, like I said, even though he was one of the greatest architects of the time, there's only one remaining building that he designed here in New York. All the others were torn down. This whole thing was unveiled in 1898. It wasn't completed until 1901 when these two statues on the sides were finished. If you look at what she's holding, it's a model of a building, and that's actually one of Hunt's greatest creations. It was one of the buildings at the Chicago World's Fair. I look forward to maybe seeing the Frick Collection without the scaffolding someday. And all the while, we got Central Park over here. I'm not gonna stray too far into the park on this journey, but was just passing by and saw the statue of Morse. We just saw Morse in the cemetery. Check out that episode if you haven't seen it. Morse is there because this is the Inventor's Gate. All the different entrances to Central Park have different names of groups of people that are common people, average people, which was part of making the Central Park thing the park for everybody. So lots of different gates. Scholar's Gate, the Engineer's Gate, the Inventor's Gate, the Women's Gate, lots of gates. It's future me. I was editing the video from this week and realized it was way too long, so I've decided to split it up into 2 parts. You've just finished the first part, but come back next week to see the second part. See you then.